Event Horizons. Stay tuned. On the Wake Up.
Mama, you gonna wake up the rest of the bitches.
Oh, check us out, y'all. Yeah.
Did you wake me up?
Yes, I woke you up.
On the Wake Up.
They don't wanna hear that Malcolm X shit. Man, yes they do, they need that shit.
Now we give them a little something called a stay woke up.
On the Wake Up.
Wake up! Wake up!
We paying for water and shit.
Hello? Hello, anybody home? Huh? Think, McFly, think! Wake up!
On the Wake Up.
Wake up! Wake up, son.
And we are live. Welcome to Event Horizon on the Wake Up Radio. I'm your host, KB from KB Visions. My co-host, Ray from One Lucky DSM. We have Dylan Lewis Monroe from Dylan Lewis M on Instagram. And we are so excited to have him back. So welcome back, Dylan. Hi, Ray. How's everyone doing?
KB, how's it going?
It's going good.
Great to be back.
I'm so excited. I'm really excited for you to be back. I have, we were just talking a little off air before we came on, but I have, Ray has some stuff that he wants to go through. I have some stuff too, like to recap on what we did and what you're doing now. So I'm really excited. So thanks for being back, Dylan, because last time it was a really interesting and it was a very informative show. I enjoyed it a lot personally, and both felt like we got a lot of information out too, which was great.
Thanks for having me back. I still haven't run out of subjects. I still haven't run out of subjects to discuss on the QMAP in any interview, so.
I can't imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be doing this one for a while, brother.
Yeah. Well, I know that you had said, like, I had watched one of them, that you had done one of the interviews, and you had said on there that, you know, when you want to add something, this is a lot of work for you to go in and change, because you have to change it everywhere. Not only on this, you have to change it on you have retail products too with a map on it.
Yeah, on
so
t-shirts, on posters, on the black and white version, on the color version. So yeah, I mean, the QMAP is pretty much stationary for now. I think like the last update was 4.6, which is what's on the posters and a lot of the t-shirts, which the 4.6 is the date. So that would have been, I don't know, 4.6. But I'm letting that one rest for now. I'm working on updating the Sefirot maps with a lot more information. And so that's what I'm working on next. But definitely by the end of the year, there'll be more QMAP updates. Actually, the next thing I'm going to do is a sort of, I think it's going to be about like 4x4 square of a QMAP that's going to have less information, but it's going to be good to hand out as like flyers. So you're going to print out like an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and then cut like 4 squares out of it. Nice. I've been finding that I have the need for like a smaller form of more like a handout version of the QWeb, and so that's what's coming next for the QMAP.
That's great.
Nice.
You ever think of a puzzle?
Yeah, like a little puzzle piece. And actually, I was just thinking today, like we've got July 4th coming up, and I know we have a big parade in Cincinnati, and at my little party last Friday, like we were talking about maybe having like a tinfoil hat crew like, in the July 4th parade. Because in Cincinnati, like we have this kind of like boho neighborhood called Northside, and that parade is pretty much like anything goes. Like you can have a float if you want, and so we're thinking about turning that into sort of like a QMAP event.
That would be great. I would love to see that. That would be amazing. That would be really good.
It's funny. I don't know if you guys have seen the Man in the High Castle. No. Haven't you guys seen that? No, I'm not watching that. But what's going on? Oh, well, it's not so much. Well, the show is. It doesn't. You don't have to watch the show, but it's like the idea where they're passing around information that the government doesn't want passed around. And the show is actually America, where the Nazis won and Japan won, and they've carved up America into their two halves. And so, like, there's this rebellion sort of going on, and the people have this video that they're trying to pass around and get everybody to see. And I feel like this QMAP is sort of like that piece of contraband we're not supposed to have. Yeah, sometimes I'm feeling like I'm like a guerrilla CIA with like stuff I'm doing with the QMAP, because I'm doing my stuff digitally, but I'm also doing some stuff locally, like with the physical printout. And like I was at Kroger last week, like trying to slip it into like this weekly newspaper that comes out, and like it was way too big to fit in there, so it looked ridiculous. But like, you know, I'm like slipping the Q map into the newspaper and then putting it back in the pile, and actually there was a guy like right next to me waiting to get one, so he took it. So like this is where I feel like I'm starting like this civilian CIA going on, but I'm not
I
really
think
on
it's
it.
I think we have to get back to doing flyers. Like I really do.
Yeah.
I think that it's needed.
Yeah.
Like that. Like I was down the park down the end of the street one day, and I just had some like little coffee stirrers in my bag. So I just wrote on them knowledge in my my Instagram and just stuck them in the ground everywhere. I was like, whatever works, right? Whatever gets people to do something. So I think you should definitely put the flyers in the papers.
Yeah.
We have to
and
get
I want to
it out
get
there.
stickers made. I want to get stickers made eventually too.
Nice.
Like waterproof stickers, not to litter them, but just to have them, you know, for just if there was an appropriate place to put them.
Well, graffiti artists all make stickers and put them all up all over the place. I mean, I've had some send me some so I could put them up in Boston for them too. So like they definitely have. If you made like, you know, based on the you do and like a section wise, you could totally start throwing them into areas like that. People would notice. A lot of intelligent people too, which would be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us about the Sefirot map. That's your new map. This is newer, I should say.
Yeah.
And this is really interesting.
Yeah, well, so I created the Sefirot map in between when I released the first version of the QWeb and when I was trying to revise the early sections. And I created the Sefirot to help myself understand basically the Renaissance and the Antiquity periods, which goes further than both of those. It's actually Antiquity and Pre-Modern is what I call it now. But trying to figure that out for myself. And it ended up being more of like a timeline of the secret societies. And it was also inspired by a few specific sources. Like there's this guy called Chat Sefirot on YouTube that does something called the Pharaoh Show, which was one of the main inspirations for the Sefirot map, because it was basically tracing the Egyptian pharaohs through to United States government or, you know, UN, like the current world power structure. And another source of inspiration for that map was just this really simple meme that had a picture of the Moloch statue from Bohemian Grove with the caption that said, "No one said taking out a 6,000-year-old death cult would be easy." And so I wanted to take that meme and basically give like a technical explanation of like how this 6,000-year-old death cult has progressed over time. And so I think there might have been a third source of inspiration for that map, but those were the two main sources, was to show like the progression of the pharaohs and the progression of the 6,000-year-old death cult. And so the first version of the Sefirot map that I put out is actually pretty simple. Like there's, I think 11 main nodes on it, which I call, the nodes are basically like the stations or like the circles that come from like the original Sefirot. And then there's information connecting each of the nodes that's actually very relevant to how like the one node connected to the other node for most of them. Some of them I had to kind of force it a little bit and come up with something, but the connections make a lot of sense. And I think it might have been a little bit too simplified the first time I released it, and a little bit hard to understand for people who hadn't actually done as much research as I had. So what I'm doing is actually basically explaining each of the nodes and each of the connections in the margins so that it will be a little more clear. Like you can look at the connection and then look in the margin and have just a little bit more information about what it actually is saying. So yeah, I'm excited to finish the revised version. There's going to be a lot more information on it, and it's coming along. It's been taking a really long time, but I feel like it's really going to be informative when it comes out, and easier to understand too than the first version.
It's interesting when you look at it and you see Illuminati 1776, and everyone knows USA 1776.
Yeah.
I mean,
2 months.
It's one of those
apart.
It's one of those weird times. I saw there's maybe a post about how Adam. I forget. I mangle his last name. Weishaupt.
Yeah, Adam.
The guy started the Weishaupt. Yeah. Was George Washington, right? Like a theory that they might have been the same person.
Oh wow.
right? Or
that there's, I'm not sure if it's a theory or if this was written in like a fictional book. I'm still trying to figure that out. If it was actual theory or just someone's like creative idea. But yeah, there is an idea that at some point Adam Weishaupt, maybe like after the Revolutionary War, Adam Weishaupt actually replaced the physical person of George Washington. But yeah, I'm not going to put that out there as even like a plausible theory because I'm not sure.
No, yeah, right. It's one of those things where it's like, you gotta, can't put it past them.
That might be coming from a source sort of like that High Castle series where it's like sort of speculative history, or like alternate history. But yeah, I need to do a little more research on that one. But it's floating around out there.
So what did you see when you were at the? Please go, Ray.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's one of those times where George Washington owned the biggest distillery on this side of the pond and got everybody drunk, right? Like would throw massive parties and stuff, and it wouldn't be too hard to just whisper, hey, let's start a revolution on July 3rd. Throw a massive party and then bam, there you go, July 4th, let's send off the paper and do it.
And that's that. I know, right? What connection
I never
did you
knew he
find
owned
Bill
a
in
distillery.
between? I didn't either.
Yeah? Between?
Oh, I was going to say,
Connection
what did
between-
you, the connection between when you were at the George Washington Museum and some of your research?
Oh man, well, I mean, I've been having a field day on my Instagram account. I don't know if you've seen, but I took a ton of pictures. So yeah, I'm talking about it's called the George Washington National Masonic Memorial. Or I might have gotten like National and Masonic confused there. It's a long name, but it's this huge, I mean, everyone knows the Washington Monument, but I feel like not many people have even seen the George Washington Masonic Memorial. And it's not in technically Washington, D.C. It's just south of Washington, D.C. But I mean, it's like a 5-minute drive from Arlington, so it's not far. But it's this humongous, like 10-story stone building that's the shape of the Washington Monument, but it's a little fatter, and it has actual like floors that are, I guess it's a little bigger maybe, but I couldn't believe that I hadn't ever visited it and that not many other people have really seen it either. I mean, I guess a lot of people have, but it's just not a well-known monument when it's like this humongous thing just south of Washington that has this like elaborate gardens in front of it with like from the high view it looks like almost like snakes surrounding like a ginormous Freemasonry symbol. And it's aligned with, I'm not actually sure what town is right in front of it, but it's aligned with like this like main street. I think actually it's called King Street, like going through whatever little town is right in front of. And so when you're in this town, you look up and you see this massive Freemason like tribute. But yeah, like, I mean, every floor of that thing was like, we went on like the guided tour, which you see a lot more than if you just walk in. But they had, it's like there's, I think, 2 different active Mason lodges in the structure. There's a big auditorium that we didn't even get to see, but then we went through, there's like a museum of Freemasonry on like the 3rd floor maybe, and then there's like a museum of George Washington on the 4th and 5th, and then on the 2nd to top floor there's what's called a Templar Chapel, which if anyone was confused about the connection between Templars and Masons, just keep in mind that there's a Templar Chapel in the George Washington Masonic Memorial, so it's a pretty strong connection happening there.
Yeah, very strong. Anything about a distillery?
I didn't see anything about the distillery, but they definitely like to paint his whole life like he was a real gun-ho Mason, when I'm not sure exactly how involved he was, because I've also been looking up some of his letters where he had written about the Illuminati to different people. Well, actually, I think both his letters referencing the Illuminati were to one person who weirdly has the same name as him, but in one of those letters, he mentions basically the year before he died that he had only been in a Freemason lodge twice in the past 30 years. that's like his exact word. And so, I mean, based on that, I'm thinking like, was he like that involved with the Masons?
Yeah.
Or was he just sort of initiated, and then, you know, I don't know. So I'm trying to figure it out.
Right, yeah, that's what we're all trying to figure out, is what's the hoopla, how do we all get hoodwinked?
I know.
Yeah, I mean, well, something else I consider when I'm wondering like how involved George Washington was you have to consider the fact that Washington, D.C., like even the layout of the streets and everything is like completely Masonic. So whatever George Washington believed, I'm not sure exactly the dates of when the streets of D.C. were laid out, but by that time, whoever was laying out the streets and approving the design of the entire city was definitely a very religious Mason, you know. I'm not sure that came after Washington, though. Probably did come significantly after Washington.
Those are the people in history to look up, is who built stuff and who actually designed the cities and was approving things and stamping things and saying that, yeah, this is going to go there, and this street and this thing, they're going to intersect here and this and that. Because a lot of this stuff is you know, the last people who gets to say on it is the military most of the time, right? And
yeah.
So
well, back in the day, I've seen something about that. I think I saw it on the Ancient Aliens episode called Founding Fathers, which is a great thing to look up for anyone that's listening and interested. I'll say it again. The Ancient Aliens episode called Founding Fathers had so much fascinating information about Freemasonry and the founding of this country. And even, it's Ancient Aliens, so it gets into the idea that Washington may have been contacted by aliens, and that either an alien or like an angel, Saint Germain, might have had a hand in the signing of the Constitution.
Really?
It gets into some pretty crazy stories, yeah.
Have to check that one out.
The crazier the story, the more realistic it tends to be. It's almost like everything is designed to sound crazy, so we don't think it's true, but it's really the crazy, the crazy stories and everything. We're like, oh my God, that's so crazy. That are the ones that tend to lean more towards, the stories or the tales that we've heard, that there actually are truths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I know in Washington's letters, or I think actually it was in his journals, he talked about meeting with people with green skin. And I think normal historians write it off as some kind of Native Americans, like in war paint. But then, UFO researchers have gone back and looked at it and said, what is these people with the green skin? Like, can we get a little more detail on that, please?
Are they mentioned?
No, it's weird too that. Hello?
Somebody go ahead.
Is the green? Oh, I was just wondering if the green skin was mentioned anywhere else.
I had only heard about it from that one Ancient Alien show. Like, I didn't see anything about that in the Washington Monument Museum. So I would have to watch that show again and maybe research those letters specifically. But it was, George Washington also definitely had visions of angels that really steered him in the Revolutionary War. Like, they kind of turned the tide at some point. Like, when he thought he was losing, he had this vision, and then he ended up winning. And so people are wondering if this quote-unquote angel might actually be some kind of ET interference.
What's your thoughts, Ray? What do you think about that, Ray? Did we lose Ray?
Did we lose Ray?
Ray? Yeah. All right. So we always lose Ray on the show. So we're going to do this. We're going to take a commercial break. You're listening to Event Horizons on the Wake Up Radio, and we'll be right back after this. We are back. You're listening to Event Horizons on the Wake Up Radio, and our guest tonight is Dylan Lewis Monroe. I'm so glad I got it right. And Ray is back. So Ray, why don't you start off saying what you were just going to say, because that's some pretty good stuff.
How we're talking about maybe little green men, Martian men, or like this connection. How there's always this connection throughout time and how Dylan was saying where the pharaohs and Switzerland, how there's this link between the two still. And there's this book I've been wanting to get to reading. I don't know if it's any good, if anybody knows if it's any good, but it's I think Freud's book on Moses and monotheism. And it's about like the link between how still the pharaohs were going through from place to place to place. And so basically, if it is the 6,000-year-old death cult, then it came from somewhere from a long, long time ago. And it's something that, it's one of those things where all of this is still connected no matter what subject we're talking about. It all goes right back to one of these things that's on a map somewhere.
Yeah. Moses and monotheism would be a really good one for me to read to research this. I mean, I'm not sure how widely accepted that one is, but it's definitely, I've been looking into the connections between figures from the Old Testament and figures that are historically documented from ancient Egypt. And I'm not sure the extent of it, but like I found one meme recently that connects King Solomon to like a specific pharaoh, and Moses to another specific pharaoh, and like 3 other people from the Bible to very specific Egyptian pharaohs. And I'm like, I'm not sure. It's interesting to think about because historians will tell you that there's really very little physical evidence of like basically the United Kingdom of Israel, which is like the earliest kings of Israel in the biblical history, like King David and then King Solomon. They haven't really found much evidence for that, and so they basically say it didn't happen. But then I think alternative historians are more like researching into like, well, who could they have actually been? Like, what are they actually writing about? Because the theme throughout many different religions is basically taking either a previous religion or actual history and just switching up the names and maybe switching up bits and pieces of the story. And so that seems to be what it's pretty, if you research all religions, you can pretty much see like a lot of things from Christianity and Judaism came from earlier religions.
Everything's just been ripped off and stolen, and then ripped off and stolen, and then done again.
I think it's the
and you
St.
gotta wonder
James.
when. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's the Church of Lalibela in Ethiopia. They were stone, and they were dug into the ground. And I think it's inside of those, the Church of Lalibela, that they have all like the different symbolisms from different religions all carved in. There's like there's the Shiva, and then there's the star, and then there's a cross, and it's all encompassed in one place. It was really interesting to find it all like in one temple, so to say. So
yeah, what I had I just Googled the image of that church when you mentioned it, and I had just actually seen a picture of that church very recently. I discovered I hadn't even really researched it yet, but yeah, that's insane. Like, I think it's like one of the oldest churches or religious buildings they've discovered. It was like completely underground. They unburied it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And they can't find any evidence to because it was dug. They were dug into the ground, and the way the sun hits it in a certain way, it glows. Like it just literally glows. And it's that like that square cross looking, not a cross, it's more like the square type. And they're dug into the ground, but they don't have a lot of evidence from them because they were dug into, so they excavated and took out as they were digging down. So there's not a lot of, like, they couldn't find a lot of evidence and stuff like that. They were able to relate the way that the buildings were built there, and then I think it was like the cross beams that they had in the windows there over into different pyramids. Like they were able to take that structure and then go 100 years ahead and say, well, it must have been the same people because they had the same structure that they could find, like there was a similarity in the building of the structures themselves. But just the fact that they had all of the different religious symbols inside of this one place, when I first saw it, it didn't give me the feeling that it was a religious, it was more of just symbols. You know what I mean? Like when I saw them all in one place. But when you were just saying that, it just reminded me of that. So I didn't mean to digress on that subject.
No, No, I mean, that's definitely something, that temple is definitely something I would like to research and probably should be on the Q map, because what I've come upon in my research is another, I think what's considered actually like the most ancient temple they've ever found on Earth. I think I'm going to have trouble pronouncing this, but I think it's called Göbekli Tepe. Has anyone ever heard of that one?
The place in Turkey?
Yeah. And
Göbekli, nobody can say that word. Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still trying to understand it, but I found one website that's kind of like breaking it down like as a conspiracy, kind of saying that the whole temple site is like in the shape of the Pleiades. And I think what this website is getting at, I haven't read the whole thing because it's long, but I think what it's getting at is that somehow saying that, like, you know, the human race or whoever built this temple, the oldest temple, was sort of ushering people towards, you know, looking at the Pleiades as maybe like the source of origin. So that's definitely, and also in that temple, I think they found the oldest cross, like the oldest crucifix ever, which is obviously like way before Jesus. So, you know, they've had the cross as a religious symbol for like a really long time, like longer than the crucifixions at the year 0. But yeah, it's like I'm really digging into this ancient religious stuff and trying to really figure it all out.
That place is
totally, there's a lot of truth in it.
Yeah.
And it's old, like, right? It's just completely older than that's what just fucks up the whole timeline about everything they thought they knew, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting how it might tie in with like the Sumerian mythology, because, you know, I think the oldest written records that historians will tell us about is the Sumerian cuneiform tablets, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, some of this like predates that even.
Yeah,
so
that's
what will
wicked.
it do to our precious timeline?
Yeah, that fucking timeline. God damn it. Everyone's so stuck to it like it's a damn ruler, and you have to, nope. That doesn't measure right with the timeline, so it didn't happen.
I mean, a timeline can't be right.
No, yeah.
Right?
No, it's completely wrong.
Yeah. It's like someone with an eraser made it. Wait a minute. Nope, get that out. You know, let's squish that together, move that over. Like, yeah, there's no way it can be accurate. No way at all. I am going to digress a little because I had heard Dylan, I had listened to one of the interviews you did, and in it you had said that you were working a lot on memes lately. And I know that, Ray, that you do that really effectively. And I want to jump into that for a second, just because I find it really interesting and effective. And I wanted to get your take on it, like why, like, I'm a talker, so I push it out that way. So I want to like learn a little bit too. And I know, so I know that you have said it's effective. I know, Ray, you're great at doing that in your play on words and stuff like that. And do you think that's a more effective way to get these messages out?
I definitely do. I mean, I can see how the Q map would be like overwhelming for people. So with most of my memes I do, I don't specifically go into like, oh, I want to do this one point on the Q map to make a meme, but I just kind of meme whatever I'm interested or whatever information I found that I think will be good to share. But it always ends up being something that was on the Q map, you know what I mean? Because the Q map covers so much. But yeah, I've been trying to almost every day like put out like a really good meme. I mean, I don't even know if you would call these a meme. It's almost like a shortened news story with images and, you know, summarized text, because some of the memes I do actually do come straight from news stories, and it's basically just taking the you know, the title of a news story and like maybe a little bit of the text and putting it with an image and sort of, you know, like letting people like look it up if they want to see the whole article. Others are more of like a summarized idea or like a chart that I found, but I think it's really effective to get a message across because, you know, people are looking at social media all the time now. Like, I think a lot of people are getting most of their news from social media, and the fastest way to, you know, learn what an article says is to just see a good image and see like the title and, you know, whatever really spin I want to put on it in terms of making it a little bit more truthful in my perspective. So yeah, I think it's really important. And I mean, I'm spending a lot of time doing it. Like, I probably should be promoting my website and my products more, but I just, I make these memes and I'm so excited to share it because I think it's, effectively saying something that's important that people need to know. And then I always make the meme, save it in, PSD and JPEG format, and then I'm like, oh shit, I need to put my website address on it. And so I end up having to go back in. And I usually even share it online too before I have my website address. And then I'm like, shit, I forget every time. And I go back in and put my website address on it just so people know, I made that meme and, maybe send some people towards my website. But yeah, I really enjoy doing that. And I'm glad that I can spend as much time as I'm spending on it because, I do my website full time. And, that's how I've been spending quite a bit of my working day is making these images that, it's somewhat of a promotion for the website, but it's really mainly to spread the information, and just includes the link to the website as well.
That's great.
But yeah, it's a great way for me to promote and to actually spread more information and ideas.
Yeah. And you feel the same, right, Ray, with them?
Oh yeah, hell yeah. It's weird. I don't know, when there's meme makers, right? And then there's like how Dylan was saying, you're sharing information or you're trying to get something across. And
short story.
the memetics, you're basically it's almost like a coin flip. You're either gonna pass along the information very well, or it's gonna ricochet off, and then they're gonna comment, no, that's wrong and that's dumb and da 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 da. And we've all seen that, and so it is hit or miss. And so I guess from my point of view, I'm a thief. I'm a meme thief. I don't give a damn. Basically, that's the whole point. It is to share information, right? And basically give it a message, or to focus the message, I guess. And to some of these pages, it's just so much truth or facts or this over and over and over. You get lost in what am I following this page for? I just learned how to whiten my teeth, but I originally followed because I hated pedophiles or something. And and so it is one of those things where it's all we're kind of coming to this the Zetas popping of memes, where almost like everything, there's peak oil, right? A peak meme, where how much can you get across in a meme, or from just one of these pages before everyone has to be doing it. That's the whole goal, right? Is that you go to everybody's pages and they all look like all our pages. That's sort of the whole the mission. And then all of a sudden, bye government. But yeah, no. So memes, they're working, I guess.
It's becoming like the new news.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
It is that instant story.
Yeah, and I was going to share with you guys, it's not exactly a meme, but I did a video, I think yesterday, of a cell phone tower that caught on fire in Pennsylvania.
I saw it.
Oh, yes.
You guys saw that, right?
Yes.
I put some funny Blade Runner love theme music to it. And this video has gone mega viral. I have 2,000 followers on my Instagram, but this video is now up to 34,000 views.
Holy moly.
I think it's really resonating with people, the idea that, these cell phone towers are our fucking enemy at this point, and whoever is still building them and programming them, it's needs to either stop, or people need to really rebel against these things, because I know Katie's been stressing me out on her Instagram about the 5G rollout, and that's my concern too. I keep looking up at the utility poles around me, seeing if anything's changed, if they're rolling out the fucking 5G yet.
They're already there. That's the scary thing. All you got to do is, it's almost like turning a dial. You turn it. The thing with 5G from 4G is the amount of data streams per kilometer. So with 5G, they want 1 million data streams per every kilometer. Right now, with 4G, it's only 250,000 data streams per kilometer. And so that's why the towers are spaced out a little more to catch more of the traffic. And so, yeah, so with 5G, like I said, but all they got to do is just turn the dial a little bit, and there are some of those towers are already, quote unquote, 5G ready. Like everything's already a generation or two ahead, and so they're not going to so much, because what are they going to do? Replace the towers? Have you ever seen them take a tower down and put up a new one? Never. It's all it's all just handy stuff. It's all trickery and smaller pieces, components or whatever. That some 18-year-old would just go up in a bucket, 100 feet, and yeah, just bolt it in and just get it done. Let's go.
Yeah.
And that's sort of. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's our biggest enemy right there is kids trying to work. You know what I mean? You ask the 18-year-old, hey, why did you just build this tower? And I don't know. I just got a good job. I got to eat. But yeah, but as a whole, yeah.
No, please continue, Ray.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, as a whole, we need to, like you're doing, notice the towers and see which ones are new or what are they adding to them, but collectively come together and say, hey, no, as adults, we know these things are fucking us up, and so if something's got to stop, something's got to give. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
I got some really nice comments on that video I posted of the cell phone tower that burned, because a lot of people were like, woo, like starts a revolution, and a lot of people were like hoorah, and then a few dipshits came on and were saying, oh, like those cell phone towers, like you don't that's not bad for your health at all, like they don't give you cancer, gosh. Don't you want to be able to use your cell phone? And I'm like, no, I don't want to be able to use my cell phone at the expense of my health,
No.
Yeah.
I don't think people, they don't realize it. They genuinely don't. I have a coworker, and he has children, he has grandchildren, so I have been telling him about this. And he kept saying to me, but I love my technology. I'm like, I'm going to strangle you. I'm like, do you understand what I'm telling you? So, I'm like, I don't think you're comprehending. So I had sent him some stuff, and then one night after work, we went out, we grabbed a drink, and we had a conversation. And it was funny, and he's like, he would say, we would start talking about it. And it was all of a sudden like he was just starting to get it. He was like, I get it. Like, and I'm like, good, because when you say that you love your technology more than your life, this is a really big problem. And I think, we could tie this into the map with transhumanism and stuff. But the 5G is horrendous. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of the light fixtures in your neighborhood are already to hook up to these magnetrons that they're putting in your area. So
exactly.
Boston,
that's the thing is that. Yeah, exactly.
Years ago, they were installed.
Yep.
So
exactly.
They have gutted my city. It literally looks like it's had open heart surgery on every street. Actually, our producer, my friends, my family, but on the show, our producer Cindy and Cam were here this weekend, and we walked around, did like a little mini documentary and stuff. And I'll tell you that we couldn't believe how many of these 5G boxes are in my neighborhood. And what I did find that I haven't found before in all of my, pointing at the sky and talking to people, is that there are people who are seemingly starting to become alarmed about these 5G boxes. As we were doing it, someone ran up to us and wanted to know what we knew about them, and he said he has noticed them in the neighborhood and he has a concern, but everyone tells him he's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
I know.
So, I've been stopping and talking to people. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say, tell them it's microwave, right?
I do. Some of these towers.
Yeah, would you put your head in the microwave? No. So
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
people.
did say it actually. I did. I was like, think of it as a huge microwave. I'm like, you can't stand near a microwave. You can't be there. It has a Faraday cage. Well, we are in that microwave now.
Exactly.
It's crazy. So I had actually documented a couple of. I put on my recorder, and I've been walking up to the workers who are actually installing it and asking them what they're installing. And then when they tell me it's 5G and it's going to work with every light post, I ask them what it is. 90% of them don't know. They have no clue
No, they
at all
don't.
what they're doing or what they're installing. So I start to tell them, and I had one of the conversations, and I put it on Instagram. And and the guy said to me, I'm like, "Don't you care?" He's like, "Not right now." I'm like, "You can't care later."
Yeah,
You don't have a choice on. It's not a luxury. It's 5G is. I know I heard in the when I was watching one of the interviews that you had done, Dylan, that is a concern for you. It's a major concern for me. Ray has this amazing amount of knowledge. So, Ray, anything you want to share to shake people up so we can get them to understand that what this is would be great.
It's like I was saying, like how Dylan was saying, where you wouldn't stand at home with your microwave door open. You wouldn't put your head in there. It's gonna fry you. This thing's gonna cook you. I almost think that it's a soft test for their system of wireless electricity transmission. Where how you're talking, KB, about how they're hooking it up to the streetlights. Like, why would a streetlight need to be hooked up to 5G? To get a power. It's power. It's electricity from there. I know, like, one of the biggest, craziest, quote unquote, conspiracies is that they're just generating energy from the air. They're using these big old 0-point energy devices, or that even anything. And that's the thing. Anything takes electricity from the air. You can, hook up a switch to a radio and, turn the radio on and the switch will go off. That's how a lot of remote water pumps are done. A lot of, things that are like in way far out there kind of places, where you can't really send a person, oh, go turn this pump on, go turn that pump on. There's these it's a radio little pump. So they've had this technology for a long time. It's nothing new. It's just, how do they want to benefit off of it, off using it on a mass scale? Because imagine utility companies not having to generate electricity, but get paid to generate electricity, right? Isn't that the biggest scam of all? It's like kind of like the oil thing, where we don't really need it. And the thing is that with wireless electricity, there is safe ways to transmit it and us still be around it, where it's not as it's not using microwaves. That's it's not using magnetrons. It's just using old school coils, Tesla coils, and winding them and stuff like that. Different tech like that. And so, but yeah, that's where everyone always wants to take the cheap way out, the easy way out. And so for them, they've got this system already there in place, and it's like, oh well, let's just make it, let's test it to see if we could transmit electricity through it, and nobody will be none the wiser, because everyone's just going to have all of a sudden your Tesla car gets charged wirelessly, your phone gets charged wirelessly, all your fixtures in your home, right? And that's sort of the world we want to go to, but they still want us hooked into their stuff, right? Paying, thinking that it's coming from a source. And so that's
we
sort
shouldn't
of
have to pay for it. We shouldn't have to pay for it if they can just generate it out of the air.
Exactly, yeah. Magnets make electricity. You just get two magnets perpetually spinning against each other, and that makes electricity. It's as simple as that, but they've made it like, oh, it's so complicated, all you laymen can't have electricity, because once every layman had fire, all of a sudden there's fires everywhere. And so, you give the regular average man the power of electricity, and the world will change again in a heartbeat. Day to night, I think.
Night to day.
Yep. Yeah.
With the lights.
Yeah.
The 5G.
Dylan, so back to the map, right? Oh yeah. I was gonna say.
Back to the map. No, we did.
Well, that does, that relates. Like, we went from 5G into the free energy, and I think this big shift. I think the big shift that's coming, or like one of the main points of the QMAP, at least objectives of the QMAP, is to get the free energy released and have it be able to be used by people, because that's one of the main problems in the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
They wouldn't be able to justify their wars for oil anymore either.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh, we're almost there. We're on the tip of petering over into it. We just need to get more people aware, more people fighting and kind of raising awareness still. And
well, yeah, I mean, it's like one of the main problems is that most people who aren't really conspiratorial minded, they really have a strong belief that free energy is impossible, that you can only get energy from burning oil or from burning something. They think that's the only energy that exists. And, they won't even open their eyes like the obvious fact of magnets and like the fact that energy is obviously coming from somewhere that is not within their fossil fuel mindset. But once enough people just understand that it's possible, and demand that they make it accessible, I think things will have to change.
Yes, yeah.
I agree.
I mean they'll always fight it, but
they've had that technology for a long time. I mean, the internet came out in 1969, right? Who thinks of 1969 and thinks of the internet, right? Nobody.
Nobody.
Right. You're thinking Jimi Hendrix and joints and Woodstock.
Exactly.
You're not thinking, but the other half of society was doing the internet, right? And so I think that speaks volumes for where we are with what they teach us and what's sort of known in the private, sector versus the public sector.
And I mean, the QMAP has, Nikola Tesla died in 1943, and I think, it's generally thought that in the modern world, he was sort of the first one to pioneer, the free energy technology in his day. So, he would have been pioneering it before 1943. So that's late 30s. They would have had the free energy technology that they could have started rolling out. But instead, by that time, the industrial age was in full swing, and they wanted to keep their, clinging on to their power for as long as they can. And they've gone, 50 plus years clinging on to power that, we should have moved on to better technology by now. But
also that they could keep making rivets and shit. You know what I mean? Seriously, that's what they're holding on. So they could keep making the same old fucking bolts and stuff from way back from before, because they don't want to retool their factories. And so they build the new factories overseas because, that's sort of, we've all got shortchanged. Nobody realizes how badly we've been shortchanged in that regard in the work field. The whole modern construction world isn't what people think it is, and the fact manufacturing doesn't happen here in America anymore. We don't make anything anymore. Everything's all made overseas, and the younger generations are never going to know. Some of them what it was like to have a mass scale, where that's the whole point of America is a free market. And so that they're supposed to be, everyone, could just jump in and do whatever, but we've had this complete corporate takeover and it started back then. It started in the 20s and 30s, and they saw that, oh snap, they got their hands on a few gizmos and gadgets and just started running amok.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're bringing back some of that. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, we have to go to a break right now. I got a little thing a few minutes ago. So we have to go to a commercial break. You are listening to Event Horizons on the Wake Up Radio. Anyone wants to call in, the number is 678-603-4393, and we'll be right back after this break.
State vs. Us magazine. Make sure you get your copy at a location near you. Visit us on our website at statevsurmag.com. Get into the minds of the hardened convict who has been wronged by the system. This magazine will give you high-profile cases. It will give you corruption information on what's happening in the prison system, police department, and the government. Also, success stories of former inmates such as myself. If you have a story to tell, want advertisement or a feature, email us at statevsurmag@gmail.com. Visit our social media on Instagram at statevsus and on Facebook at State vs. Magazine. We are the voice of the voiceless. State vs. Us Magazine.
And we are back. You're listening to Event Horizons on Wake Up Radio. I'm your host, KB, my co-host, Ray, and our guest tonight is Dylan from Dylan Lewis Monroe, Dylan Lewis M on Instagram. And his site is deepstatemapping.com. Is that the right
Deep
address?
State Mapping Project. DeepStateMappingProject.com. Yeah.
.com, which is a great site. All right, so we are back. We have such the best conversations, I swear, sometimes when we're off air. We get into these great ones. Where do we want to pick back up? Where do we... You know what? Actually, I think, Ray, I know that this is something with you, and then you had mentioned, Dylan, in that interview that you did, that you're believing more and more that all of these wars and everything that's going on now are sacrifices that date all the way back. You want to...
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I think it's important to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I know I went on a tangent like during that interview about that, and I'm actually working on making that little segment into a video with edited images and to make it a little more entertaining for people. But I was just saying that the wars specifically in the Middle East, I think, are tied to being related to human sacrifice because like the main deity in that region back in the day was this deity called Baal, and I think out of all the deities in the ancient world around that time, you know, we're talking like 3000 BC up to like 100 or up to like year zero. Baal was very specifically associated with human sacrifice, and even specifically with child sacrifice, and very specifically associated with sacrificing your firstborn son to the god. So that was standard practice in the ancient world. That wasn't like, you know, everyone didn't consider themselves like satanic. It was just like, you know, you sacrificed your firstborn to the god.
Yeah.
So, you know, what we see going on now...
How do you get rain? You burn a virgin.
Yeah, right?
Exactly. Well, yeah. I actually just watched this whole... It was like a really long series on YouTube. Well, not really long, but it was a 6-part series that someone actually just put out that was about Baal specifically, and how Christianity somewhat evolved out of like the tradition of the Baalists. And what he was getting into in that, well, I just lost my train of thought. I mean, it was a long series about Baal, and some of the stuff he went into I didn't fully agree with, but he just went in a lot of the history of that region. And so, yeah, when I see, you know, the Israelis fighting with the Palestinians, and, you know, they're both Abrahamic religions, and, you know, a lot of the Hamas and, you know, the radical Islamists, you know, they're ready to sacrifice themselves for their religion. And in the Jewish tradition, it's considered, you know, great in God's eyes to kill anyone that's not in their religious belief. So, you know, in the Old Testament, the God has the Hebrews traveling through the desert and just executing entire cities on the way. And, you know, that's considered all good. And
it's
so,
evil.
you know, you have one side willing to sacrifice themselves, and the other side willing to sacrifice the other people, and they just get along. I mean, they're not getting along, but, you know, this is why the violence in that region is never ending, because it's both within their religious beliefs to just sacrifice each other. And, you know, I don't take one side or the other. I think, you know, just in the past few weeks with Trump opening that embassy in Jerusalem, it's been like this big, you know, reignition of the whole Israel versus Palestine debate. And, you know, someone in our truther group has his grandfather was from Palestine, and so he was going off on this big tangent about how, you know, Israel's wrong and the Palestinians are being persecuted. And I think that's kind of like conspiracy theorist 101, is knowing that Israel is basically kind of like a totalitarian government, especially in regard to the Palestinians. But I see it, you know, I see it coming from a higher level, that, you know, this whole culture of the region is set up for human sacrifice.
I believe that.
So,
Ray?
Yeah, I think we might have lost Ray.
Oh, yeah.
Did we
yeah.
lose Ray again? All right.
Oh, here he is.
I was going to say, well, think about what our little blood over intent, right? Where we're, quote unquote, reprogramming this matrix. The elite know that blood spilled over whatever intent, like I said, that's what generates this matrix. That's what the duality is. It doesn't, this place doesn't care which one, it only matters that which one has more blood spilled over these intents. And so we can do all our, bring forth heaven on earth as we want, and then they just have one big war and kill 1 million people and, spill some blood over a stone that says, we're going to keep ruling everybody, and the war is going to keep going on, and everybody's going to keep doing all of this. And it's like it is this spiritual battle that we are fighting, I don't think people think of it like that, but no, it nails it right on the head that it is human sacrifice. They are using us as pawns to just, as like billy clubs, to say, oh no, my religion's right, or no, but it's this ancient billy club kind of thing going on where they're fighting over these 2,000-year-old arguments, for what now? And so,
And another thing that I want to remember the name of that Baal series I watched on YouTube, but I'll give you guys a link to it. But it was like a 6-part series about Baal, and one of the things that I got from it was the idea that Christianity developed and sort of replaced this old religion of Baal, which was centered around human sacrifice. But then by the time you get to the Middle Ages and you get to the Inquisition and you get to the Catholic Church, putting people on piles of wicker and burning them alive for being heretics, it's actually basically the exact same traditions that were going on when they were worshiping Baal. It's just they've changed the justification for it, I'm not sure when they were worshiping Baal if they were burning their enemies or burning, people who were, excited to be burned because they were loved like their God. But it's just interesting to see it as the exact same ritual of, putting people on top of a pile of wood and burning them. And, they were doing it then, and then they're doing it under Christianity, and they just sort of changed the justifications. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about when they go into church and they drink the blood and eat the communion and they have a ritual there.
Well, what is a communion? Right? And people always say that. They say, it's communion. It's communing with, so you can commune. Yeah. But it's so that they can commune with the dead. That's what communion is, right? And they don't realize that. They don't realize you're going to a building to talk to the dead, right? So there are these weird rituals and weird things that people are still doing that they don't know where they came from or why they're still done. But they have no definitely
something connected to it. What's really interesting? Just totally random, but so I live in a section called Little Italy, so it's pretty saturated in traditions and stuff. So they have processions for the saints during the summertime. So they started them on Sunday. Now, it's funny when you start learning, more of how language is it's a spell, and like the pew in a church, and it's all about, the sacrifices, and but here's something really interesting. So on Sunday they had a procession for St. Anthony, and on Sunday they put down shit mulch. Like it stunk. Like everything stunk. And I was like, why would they do it today on a Sunday? But then when my logical mind went back into that it's all about sacrifices and it's all about, shit, basically. It was just a weird thing. Like why would a landscaper come on a Sunday when church service is in? Why wouldn't he have come on a Wednesday? But he came on Sunday, and it stunk up the whole neighborhood. It smelled like shit. Like it smelled like shit. They put shit down before they came in with the St. Anthony procession. It was just a now when you have like a different vision, you see things or you logically break them down a little bit different. So they're in there doing a ritual of blood and body sacrifice. They're bowing their heads to the black sun. They are doing a procession of a saint, so a dead person, basically, right? They're walking around. A pagan
ritual, yeah.
Yep. And then they put shit down all over the grounds.
That is a weird day to landscape. Like, I mean,
right?
Who wants to landscape on a Sunday?
Right before there is a holy procession.
Yeah, it would only be more appropriate if they put blood down,
Yeah.
They may have. Who knows?
Yeah,
I do believe it's connected.
Yeah, for my Sefirot map, I'm trying to dig in more to like the origins of the Vatican, and I just finished reading this one article that was getting into the fact that the Vatican claims that St. Peter was their first pope, and this article I was reading was getting into, like, from the Bible, basically, St. Peter would have still been living in Syria when the Vatican claims he would have been in Rome as, like, the bishop. And so it's just saying that there's really no way that St. Peter the Apostle from the Bible could have possibly been, like, the first bishop in Rome, because the Bible says he wasn't there, you know, and it also mentions the fact that the Bible never mentions the fact that there should be a pope ever once. You know, the word pope isn't in the Bible. And so it's like, where are these people getting it from? Like, when did God give the Pope, you know, jurisdiction over all
this power
on earth?
Exactly. Mother, and I always see it like Saint Peter, like your Peter, the basilica, the snake. You know, Saint Peter's. It's. I almost like feel like the big secret, or like the big joke on us, is that none of this. Like, they don't even know. Like, nobody knows how the fuck any of this is going on, right? They just kind of put on robes and kind of just started saying this stuff, but, like, it's all just about sex, like creation. That is the miracle. Like, that's the single miracle. Nobody knows how the fuck it really happens. You know, we could break it down scientifically, and that this happens, and then this happens. But when the meat and potatoes of it is that we can't do it, right? We can't just recreate it in a lab somewhere, and so like it's just all a joke to us, and so they're just laughing at us. Everything's Peter, and you know, penises and obelisks, and it's all balls, and you know, Baal, you know, the ballers, right? It's I don't know.
Basketball.
Exactly. Everything.
Baal is ball.
Yeah, you pay. Well, see, that's the thing. You pay bail to get out of bail, right? Bail. So what's short for bail? Bay, Beyonce. You know, just me and Bay. And that's sort of the joke, is that it's all, you know, eBay, Michael Bay. I can't think of any other bays right now. Oh, down by the bay. It's just funny when you want to do it for the bay, right? Do it for the bay.
Yep.
And it's all that bail, that same, Bay Watch, exactly. Yeah, there you go. It's that same Baal, God they're worshiping, the same deity.
Yep. You know what? I have a list of things like that too that I got from Mark Passio speech he was giving called Demystifying the Occult, and he went through saying all these things are related to Baal. Okay, are you ready? The dollar bill, paying your bills, golden Baalion, billionaires, like billionaires, ball sports, like Baal sports, ballers, bells, billboards, Prince William, Baal. It goes on and on. When you take what he was saying was that I think in the ancient languages, like the vowels didn't have as much significance as they do now. So really the word Baal was more expressed as just BL, like those consonants together. And so pretty much all of our modern words that, you know, have the BL with some kind of vowel in between them, they're somewhat of a derivative of Baal.
Yep.
Which also is like bull, which Baal, the god, is often depicted as a bull.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The Bible, the two bulls, the paradox, the paradox.
It never
Paradise.
It doesn't end, Dylan. It just keeps growing, doesn't it? Like, every time you learn something, you're like, look at what I'm on to, and then you're like, look at what I don't know. Right? It just keeps going. Everything is so connected. It's wild. So, since we're on this talking about church and stuff like that, and, you know, I'm going to reflect back one more time to something you had said in the interview. Was it you believe, you know, you had said, like, a lot of people take, like, these stories, these mythical stories about demons and stuff like that, and they kind of joke them, you know, and pretend that they're not real. But you were saying in one of them that no one takes them that seriously, but there's some truth to them in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah. well, yeah, I mean, especially stories from the Bible, like, you know, I think historians tend to discredit them, and I think some of them do have more truth than the historians are giving them. And then another thing, I don't know if this is what you're referring to, what I was saying, but, you know, I wonder if these elites who are doing these human sacrifices and, you know, going along with these wars, if they actually do have a master somewhere, like a higher power that's forcing them to do these things. That's, I mean, you know, people have talked about, you know, reptilians or like archons who are feeding off of this negative energy. But, you know, I wonder what would happen if we stopped doing the wars. Like, would we piss off the archons? Like, would there be some kind of like retribution happen? Like, I don't know. Like maybe the elites are doing these things for an actual reason other than just their own entertainment and, you know, their own religious beliefs. Like, you know, a lot of people think that, you know, if you're someone that's not religious, that religious people just have this delusion or whatever. But, you know, when the elites have a religion that involves like sacrificing all these civilians, like, you know, I wonder like who they're actually reporting to. You know what I'm saying? Like, is there like an ET race controlling them, or like a metaphysical entity, or I've seen this one movie, Cabin in the Woods, where it's all about like a human sacrifice that fails, and then at the end of the movie, like basically like a Nephilim or a giant comes up out of the ground that's, you know, set on destroying the earth, and then the movie ends. And, you know, I think that's sort of like an exaggeration, but, you know, you got to wonder like what would happen if we had peace on earth. Like, who's going to be butthurt about it?
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's who would be mad about peace on earth and free energy and right? Like even the soldiers fighting. Like, that's the thing. Like, if someone came to you and said, "Hey, go home. You can have free energy and you know, you don't have to pay rent anymore."
Yeah.
And just go hang out with your wife and kids, and, you know, go grow some food. Go fuck. You know, would they keep fighting? Would you keep that gun in your hand? You know, would the guy across the line on the other side be as, you know, would you, why the fuck would you still want to go kill him, right? That's sort of the thing I don't get.
Yeah.
But that's sort of, I guess that's the programming, right? Where the more programmed you are, the easier it is for you to just, that trigger to just turn on, I have an enemy and I hate, you know, whoever it is that they hate. I can't believe that the programming is really that strong and that deep in people. You know, I sort of want, I want to believe that it's not, but maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's some wishful thinking that maybe they are way better at this than we think. And you know, I don't know.
There is true that there are a lot of Iraqi veterans that are into the QMAP, so that gives me hope that, you know, if our veterans, if some of our veterans are waking up to like not the truth necessarily, but, you know, that there's a bigger picture going on, that, you know, maybe they can pass the word down to some of the people that are currently in the military. And, you know, same goes for these people installing the 5G towers. But, yeah, I do think that the change has to come from people within the system. You know, definitely like military members would be like the highest priority of people to wake up, and then, you know, going down the list from there.
Yeah, because they'd be the ones to put down their guns. Be like, this isn't working.
And definitely like, you know, definitely like cops and riot police. Like, you know, the fact that we have like riot police and cops that are willing to stand up and like, you know, shoot these Native Americans for the pipeline, it's just like, these guys really need to take a look at their priorities in life, you know?
Yeah. Are they people though? Like, I don't mean to sound like...
Like how you're saying, the ETs.
Really
some of this stuff, some of these wars, some of these coincidences are so crazy that it's like, is it just a bunch of old men and fucking smoking cigars, drinking whiskey, planning this shit? Or, you know, is it some higher, you know, force that's at war with us, trying to, I always go to like, I try, if it is a war, it's a war for the chakras, it's a war on the heart, it's a war on your mind, your body, and soul. And if there is some other reptilian race outside of visible light that has control of those chakras, and the only chakra that they can't control is our heart chakra. And so, since they can't control that heart chakra, since they don't have one of them on their, you know, themselves, themselves, they have to manipulate us to using our heart chakra, and that's the whole thing about getting, pulling our heartstrings, and why some of these things are done in the media. Like why is there human sacrifices? Why is some of this stuff done? Yeah. And it's like I said, it's they're trying to win us, basically control us completely. And if they break our hearts completely as a collective, then they win. That's sort of their goal. And I don't think a lot of people know that that's what the elite are trying to do either way. It's whether, you beat a puppy into submission till it doesn't pee in the carpet and the rug. They're trying to do that to the American, the people, everyone here. Yeah. It's like, when are we going to stop, being the puppy and just being beaten by these people who just want us to live a certain way and do things a certain way? I don't know.
Yeah.
I like to have hope.
Yeah. I had the same thought as that, looking at this recent news about Tommy Roberts in England, getting arrested for reporting on gang rape.
Yeah.
And when I saw the images of these protesters trying to protest Tommy Robertson's arrest, and then you see the UK police standing in front of them just protecting the elites. What is going through these police officers' minds? Who are they protecting?
Yeah, whose side are you on? Exactly. Yeah, it's yeah.
It's like they've been programmed.
I don't even know what's going on.
You watch them spraying people. We go back to Standing Rock. You watch them spraying people, and there's children, and there's just no regard for any, right in their face, no regard. And it's happening everywhere. New York just got a whole new, the New York Police Department just got new mini militarized, these weapons.
With
shields.
A good protest would be to all those cops that are doing something. I know it's kind of stupid, but maybe have a red coat ready, and you just go throw the red coat on them and be like, "Hey, dude, who are you?" That's who you are. That's what you guys are now. That's what you guys have become. They're defending the corporation and the companies. It's always been the companies. People forget.
That could be our new meme.
They probably wouldn't even know what that meant, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that wouldn't work in England, though, but that might work here.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And no, in England, I don't know what you would do over there. But I know they're all pissed off over there. I know everyone over there actually is they all know that the Queen is German. They all know it's all some bullshit, and that they're all ready to revolt, but that they can't. They don't know what to do. They don't have guns. They're all at their wits' end.
They voted for Brexit. And
exactly, yeah.
It's okay,
exactly, yeah.
Over there.
Yeah, it's nuts, and it's come on, people. The world should be looking at that as wait a minute, you people, you can vote on something, but that ain't what's going to happen. As we need to hang people and refresh the patriot tree with some blood of some tyrants. You know what I mean? It's long overdue. And, we're trying to give these rich elite an easy out this time. You know what I mean? We're actually saying, hey, just give us the tech and quit trying to control things and go crawl into your hole and go away. But that's where there's that question: are there ETs? Are there something else that eventually, if you get rich enough, powerful enough, that you've got to come and counter with? And maybe that's something that they know and we don't, right? We've all got that question in our heads, I think.
Yeah. Where does your question lean towards?
Yeah. I don't like...
where's your answer?
Oh, what is Ray's answer?
No, I was curious your answer.
Yeah, either one. I was just curious what it means towards, if they were more real.
Oh. I'm a little confused on the question, but I was just going to say, I don't like thinking of too many hypothetical scenarios, but I wonder if Hillary had been elected instead of Trump, if the USA would have been more in the same place as the UK is now. That we sort of switched our timeline, and now we're sort of going in the opposite direction, maybe. But I mean, there's still people that think that Trump might be this super deep implant agent that is making it look like that the U.S. has turned the other path, but that he really is driving us towards a new world order. I'm sort of still thinking that we really are having a revolution in this country. But, you know, a lot of people think he's the devil and think he's stupid, but I don't know, like, I'm still undecided. You know, I'm not like pledging allegiance or anything, but I think there's a lot of signs that the U.S. is on a different path towards, like, away from the New World Order that was the previous plan, whereas the UK is going closer and closer to it.
Exactly. They've got a little more grip over there. I think how you're saying, if Hillary had won, you know, it'd be the same people making the same choices, the same kinds of totalitarian, do what we say kind of rules. And that Trump is in there is definitely a wild card, for sure, because I honestly think if Hillary was in there, we wouldn't know about any of these emails. We wouldn't know about Pizzagate. We wouldn't know about any of this stuff, right? We'd be in a completely different world. And I think some of the people that are, they're in that world. They're still in a timeline where Hillary won, where they're still seeing those projected thoughts, right? I can't help but describe it in a way where the phrase being torn between two worlds, right? Where let's say if you're 17 and your parents get divorced, all of a sudden you had this projected timeline of what you thought your life was going to be, and it was there, like it literally was physically there. You just had to experience it. But now, since all of a sudden there's this wrench being thrown in the mix, you are now torn between the two worlds of, how's life with my mom, how's life with my dad, there becomes this kind of thing where you want to get back to the timeline where you saw that it was going to happen, where what your dream was coming true. And I think that's sort of where Hillary, Obama supporters are still stuck in this dream that their candidate wasn't doing these things, that what was going on in the White House wasn't going on. And that's sort of that's why they call it the American dream, right? I can't help but wonder what they really think. Well, they're torn. Like I said, their consciousness is being like pulled like a saw on, and they're kind of vibrating in that point of dissonance where they don't like this idea of I've got to like Trump or whatever, but looking at the information that Pizzagate was going on and all this other Arcana side and everything, I don't want to look at that, so I'm just going to stay stuck here in this weird area, and they're the ones fucking all this shit up, I think.
Well, yeah, and like the people who really are like committed to Antifa, like that's really what they want. They really want Antifa. They don't realize they're working for George Soros because they don't even know who George Soros is.
Exactly.
And so, really, like the Antifa and the truthers are completely on the same page. There's just the Antifas are delusional, or they're not delusional, but they've been misled. They think that there are these anti-establishment people, but really they're fighting for the New World Order.
Exactly. Yeah, they're just making it easier for the cops to go spray you out in the protests.
Yeah. Well, I went to a ministry concert earlier this year, and Ministry's single on the new album is called Antifa, and they're all like, we are the Antifa, like being so badass. And then they have songs from earlier in their catalog called like New World Order, and like they're anti-establishment, they're anti-New World Order, but then like in their new album they're like pro-Antifa, which is supporting the New World Order. And so it's just a lot of people are really confused right now,
Yes.
And it's intentional to sow the division within the population, so that everybody, liberals and conservatives should be uniting right now and fighting like this great evil that wants to kill everyone. And instead they're totally butting heads worse than they ever have, because the propaganda has been so effective at creating different factions with different beliefs that think they're fighting for opposite things when really we all want the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly it.
Got to bring, and Trump's probably not like the best person to bring everyone together because he's been so divisive. But I think it seems like America's going in a better direction to me. But hell yeah, there could be a master plan that they're fooling all of us with. But
Yeah, the pulling out of this Korean summit thing was kind of like it's like, what is going on? Because I think a lot of people thought certain things were going to go a certain way, and then now he really is kind of throwing a curveball, even with what...
Well, I kind of think from following QAnon, I think there might be a possibility that the Korean summit already happened. That some people that have followed QAnon are saying that when Trump met in the Forbidden City in China, that the leader of Korea was actually there, and that's when Trump had his meeting with the leader of Korea, and that they've already kind of worked out the details, and that this meeting that was coming up was just sort of like the PR to bring the population and the mainstream media up to speed. But who knows? I mean, I do think that they might have already had a meeting. This other meeting might have been to more to solidify things, but I don't know what's going on. Who knows?
Yeah, because like I said, I saw it as Trump being anti-New World Order and China being anti-New World Order, because, like I said, China said, "Fuck it, bring it on." It's like basically country versus country, and they're this cabal, this death cult. They're their own little country. They have their own little military force. They've got whether you want to call them clones or whatever, programmable life forms. The technology, like I said, out the wazoo, and I kind of thought that this was that kind of moment where Trump and China were going to go, hey, all right, let's do it. Let's take you guys on. And Russia's like, all right, fuck it, let's do it. But here we are.
I want to mention, based on what you had just said, I just want to mention that I had read an article about the Knights of Malta recently, which I don't know if you would call it a secret society or just kind of like a branch of the Vatican, but when I read this article about the Knights of Malta and really understood what it was, it basically is its own country without a territory. It started as only members of nobility would join this order. It was originally the Hospitallers in the Holy Land during the Crusades, and basically only members of nobility were invited to join this order. You had to buy in, so the order had all this money pooled in from all different nobility, and at one point after they had left the Holy Land, they established themselves on the island of Malta, like they were granted the whole island of Malta, and I guess at that point it would have been considered an actual country, but then Napoleon kicked them off of Malta, and it's basically this country that doesn't have a land anymore, and then they've divided up the whole world into various, I'm not sure what they call their officials, but they have a power structure that covers the entire world. And it's a country without land that's run exclusively by the elite. And it's these are the ways that they control the system.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you said. How do you set up a shadow? It's like how we're set up. Where there's the corporation, there's the straw man, and then there's the person. They get away with doing all of this stuff because they quote unquote aren't the ones quote unquote doing it. It's these countries with no land. It's these companies with no address. It's these places with no return address, right? You know what I mean? It's that's how they do it. That's exactly how they do it. It's such an old system. It's such an old game that they've just been doing it for so long that we have no idea what they're doing. But we're sort of figuring it out.
I'm looking at this article now. They call him the Grand Master. Who's the head of the Knight Order in a certain area. So it's did you know that there's a Grand Master of, half of America that's a Knight of Malta? No.
Yeah, right.
Vote for him? No. But I'm pretty sure he would have some say in, the direction of the country through his connections. Creepy.
It is creepy. Everything's one rabbit hole after another.
And it's the Red Cross, right? That they wear the Red Cross.
The Knights of Malta, they have an 8-pointed cross. It's a unique shaped cross. I think sometimes it's red, but in the Vatican they wear it a black, and the cross is white on black. But yeah, it changes colors. But when you see that shape, it's the 8-pointed cross shape. You'll recognize it.
Yeah, now that you said that in my head, it just popped back in.
Popped in.
Yeah, and actually, one of my Instagrams recently was pointing out that Prince Harry, I think, in his recent wedding, was wearing his big bejeweled brooch was the Cross of Malta, and I'm not sure exactly what this brooch was signifying. Like, if it's also like just a royalty thing, but that's the thing, is that all royalty have bought into this order. Like, that's how they recruit from exclusively nobility and royalty. You buy in, and that's how they have so much money. And, I'm not sure if he's an actual member or not, but I would kind of be surprised if he wasn't.
No, yeah. They are. It's all one big club.
It is. It is one big
I know
club.
the royalty in England are a part of this thing called the Order of the Garter, which is just another version. I think it's like the exclusively English version of some kind of secret society, but, it's all mixed together. I mean, the boundaries between different nations for nobility ended a long time ago. Like, the nobility of Europe basically, there was different factions that were fighting each other, but the nobility, they crossed different country boundaries pretty easily in terms of their control and their web of power.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the banking was what really wanted to take over the entire continent and then the whole world. Which started from Templar banking, then went into Italian banking, and then I think the banking capital moved to Germany for a while, and then it moved to Amsterdam, and then finally it moved to London. And,
Wow.
And then from there it moved to the Federal Reserve, and then from there it moved to Switzerland with all these international banks. And it's all been the progression of the exact same banking families and banking structure that has all been run by basically what you would call the black nobility, which a lot of them started like the oldest like Italian banks and Swiss banks.
Whenever I think of those old banks, I think of like that scene from Harry Potter's where there's like these little gremlins in these underground caves, and that's where they got all this gold and shit in there. I don't know why, but when I think of old royal banks, I just think of something like that there is really, they really do have some reptilian dragons guarding their gold or some shit, or else I mean.
Yeah.
Oh man!
Well, I think some of the original wealth from even the modern banking structure might have actually come from the Valley of the Kings. Like, I have this theory that sort of the Valley of the Kings was used as the very first bank deposit, and that actually the priest class that was supposed to be guarding the Valley of the Kings actually raided it and took all that wealth and maybe moved it to King Solomon's Temple, and that became like the wealth in that, or maybe then they moved it to the Vatican. It's kind of the theory I'm working on. Well, that's part of the Sefirot map, is following how like the wealth was transferred, from the pharaohs to the Vatican, and I think it was sort of that same big pile of gold that they had dug up and was used in all the Egyptian stuff, and that they're hoarding it somewhere, and that's sort of like the backup for the whole system of banking.
Yeah, it's all been thievery. It's like that's sort of the thing. Like I'm pretty sure somewhere along the line they had to realize, all right, we're gonna get robbed, and so they just became the thieves themselves. You know what I mean? Like that's sort of the. I think the other. Yeah, we don't see them as being the thieves themselves, but they are. That's who runs us. Is the biggest thieves and crooks throughout all of time.
The biggest bank robbers of all time are now the international bank robbers. Or the bankers, rather.
And
Yeah, they are.
God damn.
I know. So do you think there's a connection? Because I know recently I had seen there was a connection between the pharaohs and the Swiss. Am I correct on that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would be what I was just talking about. The fact that now some of the, you hear about Swiss banking, like everyone wants to put their money into Swiss banks because, you can hide your dirty money there. Switzerland is also where they have what's it called? The Bank of International Settlements, which is basically...
that's the real bank.
That's okay.
The main bank of all the banks of every country, like, reports to the Bank of International Settlements. And so it's kind of like the ultimate global bank. And I know Switzerland is also where it's based, the International Monetary Fund, IMF.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, a lot of the international banking stuff is in Switzerland, and I think that is where the whole power structure is based at this point in the world. Except, I heard another crazy theory just the other night. I was at my Truther meetup in Cincinnati, and a member of our group said that his grandfather had worked with Nikola Tesla, and his grandfather was some kind of high-level engineer, electrical engineer maybe, that worked for different governments. And he was telling us this story that his grandfather told him, shortly before death, that the grandfather had been taken to the Great Pyramid in Egypt, and that he was taken into a military base that was under the Great Pyramid in Egypt.
Under the pyramid, yeah.
And his grandfather told him that the Egyptians are actually more technologically advanced than you would ever believe from looking at the surface, that there's this whole shadow government that operates underground in Egypt, under the pyramids, that's one of the most advanced governments in the world. And I don't know if this story was true, but it just blew my mind, just to hear
that's
from basically a secondhand account of something like that. I was like, and it makes sense with this whole pharaoh theory that the pharaohs are still in charge, that they've just moved their government into these deep underground bases in Egypt, and obviously Switzerland as well.
It's the Mitsubishi emblem. Mitsubishi is 3 diamonds, and the Great Pyramids, we think they're pyramids, but if you finish the shape, they're diamonds. And so I know that with them, there's always the seen and the unseen. That base underneath the pyramids, that place has popped up quite a bit in a lot of these stories that they are technologically advanced, way beyond anything we could ever possibly imagine. And that's sort of some of the stuff that whenever there is disclosure from an insider, it's always so spot on or so eerie that we like I said, we do have to wonder, is there truth to those stories that there is this ancient race that just is still around running things, and we just don't see them because we are so busy doing our little programs that they've obviously had millennia to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and if that story is true, it would kind of fit into the perspective of the New World Order having the ideal society be one where basically the main population is a third world country that's, living in shanty towns and just struggling to get by, when the elites have their whole separate system, either, in deep underground bases or in, secluded areas, or even on a satellite in space. I always think about that movie Elysium with Matt Damon, where the whole population of Earth is basically living in destitution, and then the elites have this tourist space station up in orbit that is like a paradise with free energy and healing beds and all the technology you could ever imagine. And they just keep everyone working like slaves on the Earth. I guess, I don't know if it's for their entertainment or why they don't just ditch them or what, but it seems
we have that now. We have that now here. Yeah, right?
Sadly, it's not a good movie in terms of the plot, but just the portrayal of the elite versus the people, I think, is dead on.
Yeah, hell yeah. Oh yeah. I don't think people understand that. That there would be a group of people that would hate humanity.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing, I think, for people to realize, is that yes, there is a group of people that just, I don't know, they think they're better than everybody for some reason.
Well, and liberals and Democrats don't understand that the goal of the Republicans and the Democrats going this far has not been to make America strong and to make people happy in this country, but it has been to basically destroy the country and impoverish people, and bring in so many immigrants from Mexico and from the Middle East that it's just it's chaos for the average citizen. And they just don't understand that politicians don't have an ideal country. That's not the goal of what these policies have been working towards. No,
yeah, exactly. We've been getting fucked on both sides of the the aisle. Who cares?
Rainbow?
Whatever you
Yeah.
yeah, the bird, the bird, yeah, the left wing, the right wing. This bird's getting shitted on. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, it started with exporting all of the factories to China, and it's just been one thing after another since, and bad trade deals.
Everything, yeah,
That's why I think
everything.
that the direction really is changing. The fact that Trump has canceled some of these big globalist trade deals that were really, I mean, critical in establishing their original idea for a new world order. I mean, he shat on the TPP for his first day in office, so...
Yep, yeah, exactly.
Understand that the
yeah.
plan has at least been changed, even if the plan has not been completely canceled. The plan has suffered a major setback.
Yeah, but the plan is still going. Well, see, that's the thing. It's like I hear that phrase, and then I think, well, whose plan? What plan? Right? And then we get into this like how I say, the truth-in community is still very divided. How you're saying everybody's so the propaganda's working, right?
Yeah, it is.
And it's weird. Like I don't know. It's hard to describe, I guess.
Well, we haven't gotten into QAnon. We haven't gotten into QAnon yet on this chat very much. So, like, how's everyone feeling in the QAnon? Like, are we still feeling like it's a real phenomenon, or is it a LARP, or is it CIA psyop, like, or is it?
Yeah.
What's everyone's stance at this point?
I've seen everyone just. It's sort of it's like you're at a party. Right, and Q's throwing this big old party, and for a while everybody was at the party, and the music was hot, and the drinks were good, and then all of a sudden we're just all standing around now at this party, being like, hey, who's throwing this party? And like I said, I've always thought that it was not so much completely the AI, but that there was some AI aspects to it that, like I said, they were trying to figure out. It's all about counting, right? Like counting lists, like how many people would we have to fight if there was a revolution? I'm sure it was the biggest question they've always wondered. And so how are they counting us? Well, they're counting us with Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all that stuff, and sorting us out right now. And I don't know where it was. Where was it? Freedom of Factions of Freedom put on the post about how everyone was leaving Google because of this project Maven, this spying project,
employees, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so like if that's really the issue, then like that's fucking a huge kind of thing. Like, hey, hello, yeah, people are at least awake to what they're doing, and need to wake up more. I think on that scale, but it's funny. I don't give tech people too much credit, but here I gotta give them some props for backing the little guy on that one.
Yeah, that was surprising. They kind of had a rebellion against the direction it was going in, which you don't see very often, especially in the tech world. Of people being like, "Oh, this has gone too far." Like, I wonder where the people, building these 5G towers are going to stand up and say maybe enough is enough.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
I know I've seen people who have found out after they've installed them what they've done, and they've, you can. There's some of the videos. They drove a truck into it. They drove a tank into it. There's so much regret or remorse for it. There's a 5G whistleblower who, he says that this has nothing to do with cell phone service. They're weapons.
Yeah.
It's
a
silent weapon. Yeah, it's a weapon. I mean, people think that they're going to get a better cell phone service. I don't see them coming down anytime soon. So it's so crazy.
Yeah, and I feel like cell phone service is good enough. I mean, if I can watch a YouTube video from my cell phone, like, it doesn't need to be any faster than that.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes, unless you're trying to do like virtual reality from your cell phone, it's like it's probably even faster than it even needs to be already.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. That's how I was saying. Where, like I said, go ahead, KB.
No, go ahead.
I would say that they're trying to push electricity with it. That's secretly what they're doing with it. That's why it's so much, but that they're not doing it the right way. They're just It's like how they pass laws, where it's like, let's just pass this law and get this budget in there and this budget in there and this in there and that in there. And so that sort of mentality has rolled out to everything, and they do everything sort of like that, and they cut corners everywhere.
These things are brutal. They're blowing off. So they have, the ones in my neighborhood have the fan, the box on the bottom looks like a refrigerator. It's a fan. It's a cooling system. So I would say if I'm talking about 18 of them in my neighborhood, 10 of them, 11 of them have a very loud noise coming out of them. And I sent this to the head of the broadband in Boston. I mean, I've contacted anyone I can contact. Believe it or not, I'm super, I'm hopeful this is going to happen, but we may, some of the people that I work, not work with, but, work with to create a better, we may actually get an appointment with the governor. And I'm so hoping that this happens, that we can actually sit down and talk to him about 5G. But in the meantime, I've written to the broadband in Boston, and these boxes are, he wrote back to me, the president, and told me, Lynch, he told me that they're not supposed to make the noise that they're making. These things are all making an unbelievable noise. I've recorded high pitches at night that I can hear just putting my phone in my window. I can hear high pitches now at night. And then one of them yesterday was actually hot to the touch. Boston is old. It has old electricity. Like my building has the original 2-cable electricity in it. It doesn't have a third grounding wire. Yeah. So like I can pull plugs out of the wall and they're hot. People don't understand. There's so much more that goes with the fact that it's a silent weapon, it's a deadly weapon. The amount of electricity just that the smart boxes are pulling. Never mind them working in conjunction with the 5G in the neighborhood. So, we have, last summer, I went down to the fire department in the neighborhood and told them, because my building was having surges, the building next to me was having surges, the one on the block behind me was having surges, and a few years back we had an explosion underground. So he actually came down with a thermal reader and went through the street and went through my building and stuff like that, because the plugs are coming out hot. So, you have buildings that have the original electricity in it, and then you have these magnetrons. Ooh.
Yeah.
It's not a good look. It's just not. It's just, it's so upsetting, and I try to stay monotone about it because it's so upsetting to me. But when we were walking yesterday, pretty much we saw the magnetrons. There's two that are always across from each other. But then we discovered this one other box. And this looks like one of the ones that would immediately catch fire. So it was like a light pole, and then it had this massive box straddled on the back of it like a backpack, and then it had the 5G cylinder. And as soon as me and Cam got in the radius of it, we both felt pressure in our head. We felt sick just being right there. And the meters, we had the meters too, and they were all going crazy. People don't understand this in their backyard. I know.
I don't even have a red. I moved to a town where there isn't even a red box where I'm at. That's how away from the city I got. I don't even have a red box within 10 miles of me.
Yeah.
But
it's getting to that.
That's part of the reason why I left New York, because of the cell phone towers. I mean, there was other reasons as well, but it was just driving me insane, like having to worry about it. And like I had one of my second to last apartment, I was on the 9th floor, and the building next door to me on the 8th floor, it was 8 floors high, had a cell phone, array on its roof, and I had cell phone towers pointed at my headboard that was probably only like 15 feet away with a brick wall in between. And
so horrible.
Yeah. So my final apartment was a little bit better than that. It was more of a distance, but it was just like, I was like, I can't deal with it anymore. And so, I left New York and moved back to Cincinnati, and I'm basically in like a bunker here.
Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy. I think about that all the time. Like, I love where I live. I love my neighborhood, and I want to fight and preserve it. And then there's that part of it is just like, what do you do? Because there's so much around you. Like, and the higher up you go, the more susceptible you are. This radiation and these microwaves come in through your windows. So now, like, I have, like, blackout curtains and, like, double curtains. And it's, like, insane. It's like you're building a bunker higher up. I mean,
Yeah.
I have Organite, I have my BioShield, I have a copper thing, I mean, literally I have stuff all over my home trying to balance the energy, but I can feel it. You can feel it changing even more and more. And now that they're putting, I think just in the last week, they installed 10 new magnetrons. I think I've counted 20 total in my neighborhood, and they're not done.
Well, I'm hoping, like what I said in my Instagram, that video that kind of went viral of the burning cell phone tower. I was saying, like, if there was a way that someone could hack these things, or even if Earth liberation does go down and they can reprogram these things to emit a healing frequency instead of a cancer-inducing frequency, like this problem could actually turn into a solution overnight, like theoretically. I think. I mean, I'm not sure if they could actually do that, but. There's people like wife in the 30s was doing healing with frequencies, and I think there might be a way to at least have them be less unhealthy, like less of an attack than they are currently.
Yeah.
With even the same hardware.
Oh no, I was gonna say that's what would have to change. The hardware would have to change. Yeah, the hardware would have, but. The idea of sending out frequencies, healing frequencies is totally doable, but not with microwave makers though. It'd have to be like a like an oscillator or a tone generator or like a simple tone or something. But
okay, well then maybe it is better if we just burn them.
Burn them to the ground.
What is it? A sucker punch? It's a SUCC sucker punch. I just learned about it, and you make it with crystals, and you make it with copper and a battery, and then there's like a little switch, and you can actually go, I guess, to some of these poles and hit it, and it changes them. It disables them, or it does something to them.
Yeah, I've been seeing stuff about that lately, like with Organite and Sucker Punch and like Tower Busters, and it seems like an expensive venture to get into, not really knowing for sure if it's actually correcting the problem. So I'm a little hesitant, but I know a lot of people have researched it and are like really gun ho on it. But I'm like, I'm not gonna dump $100 into creating something that I'm not sure if it's actually even doing anything. But I mean, if it helps you feel better mentally, go for it.
It's weird. Like I said, it's stopping the EMF. Like in making a tower, like an orgone buster or a quote unquote cloud buster, but nothing stops the microwave. Like that's the
problem.
There's no potion, there's no spray, there's no stone that you could put on that's gonna stop the microwave if it gets turned on. If it gets turned to 11, we all get cooked. That's
it's so crazy.
Yep. That's when it gets real. That's when you're like, all right. That's when, that's sort of like I say. I try to remind myself every day that this is a real war. This is a real fight that we're fighting, and we do talk about these things like as if they could never happen or as if it's some far off future. But we're dealing with it now. It's an issue now, and that's something I think that. No, a lot of people, like I said, aren't even ready for it, don't even know what to, think about. And, we like to say, our military and everybody protects us, but when they don't know, when they could be sent off somewhere and something happened at home, who's the ones doing it here? It's got to be us. We're the ones. And our own banking system is the domestic terrorist on our soil, operating on our soil, and has been for more than 100 years. I think, we fight terrorists so far. They get us thinking about terrorists overseas, but we need to fight the terrorists that are right here.
Mm-hmm.
True. It's very true.
And even the AI terrorists in these towers, like I call them I started calling them Archon towers since that post I did. If you could consider them as like these AI frequencies that who even knows who controls them at this point? I guess
exactly.
Someone way high up at Verizon or AT&T is in charge somewhere of what's coming out of these towers, but who knows if they could be hijacked? It could be an AI controlling these things at this point. Like we don't know.
Exactly.
I would believe that. I mean, I definitely would believe that. This has been good. I feel like we could talk on and on and on, but unfortunately, we have come to the end of our show. which is sad. So, Dylan, we like to always leave the closing. What would you like to close with?
Well, I can't think of anything subjects to bring up, so I'll just say, check out my website, deepstatemappingproject.com. Definitely follow me on Instagram, Dylan Lewis M. on Instagram, and we still have the free downloads on my website. Is the first thing you'll see is the QMap download, the QKey download, and the Sefirot map download, all for free. And then I'll be, making the smaller flyers soon that I'll put up for download that you can make into small flyers. And let's turn July 4th into the new revolution, the new American Revolution, and spread the QMap.
Yeah.
And let's, kick out the pharaohs and start this country over again.
It is. We should just start calling it the Second American Revolution. It is happening. It really is. That's what, because I can't see it any other way other than it's like, well, do we keep doing things the old way? No.
I hope not.
Yeah.
So what do you got, Ray? What do you want to share?
Let's just keep doing what we're doing, everybody. Right? I mean, we all lose hope every now and then, but I think we're winning. I really do. Every single day I wake up and I'm like, yeah, we're beating the shit out of them.
Yeah.
With even if we get one person to think differently and to be like, oh, hey, you know what? I don't want to support their wars, or I didn't even know I was supporting their wars, or because that's the thing. I think that's what being a sleep is that we unknowingly support everything that keeps us a slave, and so. We might not wake you up fully and completely, but we're going to wake you up to something that you might not have been aware of, and that's half the battle right there. So just keep everybody keep doing what you're doing, and we'll get there.
Yes, we will. We will get there. We will bring heaven to earth. We will do that. Dylan, I want to thank you for coming back. It has been a pleasure to talk to you and have this conversation. You have a great mind of knowledge, which is really great to talk to, and your map is everything. Deep State Mapping Project and .com. I'm going to actually order the poster. I want the poster.
Oh, good.
I was the other day. Yeah, I'm going to order
it. I'm going to get a shirt.
Hey, there's a few other truthers in Boston, too, so...
Say that again?
Yeah, I use the backpack. There's a few other truthers in Boston that have ordered the poster, so you're not alone in that 5G chemtrail suit you're living in.
I'm starting to meet people who are seemingly, after all these years, being concerned, so I will talk to anyone who wants to get out of this hell. Yeah, it's crazy. So I guess, I'm just going to keep it really simple. Just love yourself, start learning. We are in a battle for our souls, our energy, and our future. And if you don't become a player, you're going to become a worse victim. We all are. So you have to get in the game. It's not a choice, You're playing it. Just be an active player to create a better. And then we can all live in a better. Gain some knowledge, share that knowledge, raise those vibrations. You have been listening to, before I go, so sorry, Ra, thank you for always holding it down and listening to our little rants in between on our commercials. And Cindy, so much love for you for what you do. And I got to see firsthand this weekend how hard you actually work nonstop as we tried to get you to come out and play. So thank you to all of our listeners. Dylan, we appreciate you. Ray, I appreciate you and I worship you. And you are listening to Event Horizons on the Wake Up Radio. And until next time, peace out.
See you.
Imperial Media Collective.
Cindy Ashby Production.
On the Wake Up